Welcome. Today we're going to be reviewing the Pilot Vanishing Point LS. Before we go on, I wanted to catch this in the sunlight because this is a deep, beautiful blue that's hard to capture otherwise. The Pilot LS was released in 2019, and the LS stands for Luxury and Silent. Now, we're going to obviously be comparing this a lot to the standard Vanishing Point. Let's give the standard Vanishing Point a listen. Now, we're going to give a listen to the Pilot Vanishing Point LS. As you can see, it was silent comparatively. There was very little sound with this one. Now, ostensibly, this would be because some people might get annoyed in the presence of that sound, especially if you're, in a big, large business meeting with, 20 different, businessmen doing that. It definitely becomes noticeable. In my personal line of work, it's never bothered anyone, but I don't often sit in quiet rooms with many other people that also have, nice pens. So I've never found it to be an issue. In fact, the fidget factor is one of the things I love about the standard Vanishing Point, but I can see how this has its real appeal with that silent knock. One of the things I found really cool too was they didn't just make it silent on the disengagement, they made it completely almost silent on the engagement as well. Listen. There's not even a click when the knock makes its way all the way down to the body. You can feel it. You can feel some sort of interaction there that's a solid feel. So you know your mechanism is engaged, but it doesn't make an audible click like that one did. That one actually had two. 1, 2. 1, 2. So this mechanism is super awesome and silent. We're gonna test our knock using the clip here as our kind of placement. So when we engage the mechanism, the dial spins around. And now, whoops, I'm writing on myself. Whoops. Oh well, part of the hobby. So if you look here, the clip is at straight up, and then the dial is right about 3/4 of a turn. Now we're gonna give it the go. So the release takes about 3/4 of a turn, and let's kind of count it there too. We got 1, 2, 3. It's about 3-second return time, and that is part of what makes it silent, right? You've got nothing really fast, inside the mechanism moving. However, it adds a lot of time when you're putting it back in your pocket. Now, if you're, in a big business meeting and you're just putting it on your, on your desk in front of you with your other business supplies, your briefcase and what have you, that's not going to matter because you're just putting it there. In my line of work, though, I'm putting it back into my pocket, and this is much quicker to disengage and then get it back in my pocket. So with this one, when I tried and kind of timed myself, I was able to go from a writing position and then disengage it and put it back into my pocket in about 2 seconds. This one took about 3 to 4, partly because it took 3 seconds for this mechanism to completely disengage. You can try and do it quicker than that, but you don't want to wait for that nib to really retract before you start manipulating this part. So that is an interesting thing. It's a downfall for me, just the timeliness of it, but for other people looking for the silence, it's just a trade-off that you make. Let's check out some other components here. So one of the coolest facets about this is this milled component right in the middle. Let's zoom in there. Yeah, check that out. That's super cool. I love that. I love different types of milling. It reflects the light differently. It's very cool. It's a visual feature that's a very nice addition. Let's look back at the clip. So we're going to zoom back out a little bit. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the standard Vanishing Point clip here. So the standard Vanishing Point clip is a little bit wider, and it's got this kind of flare in and out there, versus the LS clip is straight. It's much more streamlined in that sense. If you look at the side, however, the typical Vanishing Point clip comes up higher with its pocketability. So if you were to line up where the pockets meet, you can see that the standard Vanishing Point would sit a little bit lower in your pocket. Now, if you're looking for luxury, you could make the argument that you want people to see this beautiful pen sticking out of your pocket in that beautiful deep blue. So there's definitely that to be said. As far as clippability in the pocket, I actually prefer the standard one. I don't know, maybe I've just worn mine in. Something about it just seems a little bit more springy, a little bit more bouncy, and a little bit more smooth into the pocket than this one. And maybe it's because this one's a little bit thinner. Takes a little bit more effort. It might be. I mean, if you look up here, just look at the size. Oh, you can't see the other one. Look at the size of this part right here that's actually connected. So you're kind of leveraging against that portion, and there's a larger portion here in contact with the body. So that could also be why it's a little bit less springy there. So I do personally prefer the clip on the regular Vanishing Point. The weight is noticeably heavier on the LS. And that is, you know, most definitely due to that difference in mechanism. So all of these extra features up here give it extra weight up here. That is something I personally really like. I prefer the weight of this LS over the weight of the standard Vanishing Point. So the weight is definitely an attribute there. Let's take a look under the hood. So it disassembles the same manner. And just like all the other Vanishing Points, the nib unit is interchangeable. So I actually just took my personal nib that I've been using, a medium, from my other Pilot Vanishing Point, and I just drop it right in, and then it assembles as typical, and then I'm good to go. So I've actually just been using my own nib here with some diamine holly right now. So anyway, let's zoom in, because one thing I did notice, and I appreciated this part, is, let's take that out. You can see here, there is no cutout. So let me show you a standard Vanishing Point. On the standard Vanishing Point, you have a cutout right there. So this little portion that sticks up, the raised component, sets your nib in the right angle. There we go. Now you can really see how they really just truly mill that entire part out. So it makes for a really nice, easy visual aid for people who are new to this. But I prefer the LS, because the LS, you see, where they still had to mill out the inside for that raised portion to, you know, set the nib alignment properly. However, they didn't mill this part, and that means this is continuous threading. So this is stronger. So this is a really cool addition that they did there. There's a little O-ring there too, which looks nice. Let me see if there's an O-ring on the other one. Yep, there is an O-ring on the standard one. Okay, so I do like how they did some nicer tricks there with the milling to keep the threading. That was very nice. This is a gorgeous, great pen. I think it's a really cool mechanism. Not quite as fidgety. Zoom out a little bit. This mechanism's not quite as fidgety, but it works really well. They did the alignment really well, so when you're writing, when you come up, this is right where your thumb needs to be. So they very clearly planned that out, and that's a really nifty thing that they, you know, worked out the ergonomics there, so it works so well. You can do it with your left hand. I am a righty, but you just have to like use your index finger to kind of push it forward so it's not as natural. One last note I'll say, the knock is a little bit thinner too. So you'll notice, we'll do the size comparisons there, and the knock on the LS is thinner than the knock on the standard Vanishing Point. All right, let's do conclusions. Conclusions, this is an awesome pen. Even though I technically prefer the clip and the mechanism just due to fidgetability and time saving on this pen, if I were in an environment where I didn't want to drive people crazy with my clicking, if I was going to be sitting in meetings a lot longer every day, then this would make for a great alternative. It's still got some fidget factor, but the timeliness of the 3-second disengagement there, 1, 2, 3 or so, that leads to less fidgetability. I love this milling that they did there right in the center. That's gorgeous. I wish they would put that on all of them. The clip I prefer on the standard, but this is still a fine clip. It works. It's just not quite as friendly and ergonomic for the handhold grip without that little flare part to index your fingers, and then it's a little bit less springy in and out of the pocket. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous pen. This blue is so gorgeous. Let's move over here in the sunlight again so you can see that. I jokingly tried to buy this from the donor that sent it, and he was like, no way, that is definitely not for sale, which is probably a really good thing, because when I looked it up, these are not cheap. These go for close to about 3 times the price of a standard Vanishing Point. And by a standard, I mean the base level. I'm getting up to show you. Base level, here's my matte black base level there. So these things are about 3 times the cost of a standard model. So there's also that cost factor to keep in mind. All right, let's finally get you some size comparisons. So first off, we'll just do a size comparison to the standard Vanishing Point. And we see the LS comes in just a hair longer than the standard Vanishing Point. Now let's do the Parker 51. See, the Parker 51 is much more slender, not as long due to the knock. Let's get the Pilot 743. And now we're going to go ahead and show you one yet to be reviewed. This is also a donor pen for review. This is the Firmo, so we'll be looking at that soon too. It's another type of Vanishing Point with a different mechanism. Thank you for joining me on this review of the Pilot LS Luxury and Silent Vanishing Point.